Hello everyone, we are going to discuss the security of API key in this video. Many users who use FMZ International website know that when using quantitative trading robot, when configuring exchange objects, we need to configure the API key to the FMZ Quant platform. And many users pay more attention to the security mechanism of API key configuration. So let's take a look at the security of our API key. We can go to the API document of our platform on the key security part. We can see that our platform also supports an authentication method compatible with RSA key. This authentication method is an asymmetric encryption authentication method, which is more secure because when we create the RSA private key and public key, we need to put the private key in the local of the Docker, use the local private key to sign, and then access the API interface of the exchange. That is to say, as long as the private key is properly stored in the local device, there will be no risk of leakage, which will have a higher security. At present, many exchanges have supported this method. For example, Binance Exchange supports the API key authentication method. So, in this video, we will demonstrate how to configure RSA API key on FMZ platform and how to create RSA public key and private key through Binance Exchange. So let's take a look at the steps, the explanation process. Here, the explanation process we prepared. First, let's demonstrate how to create RSA private key and public keys. After we log into Binance Exchange, we can find the creating API key. Here, we log into Binance in our account. We can find API management here. Wait for a moment. Then we click Create API Key here. There are two options here. One is the traditional HMAC systematic encryption method. Binance will return a key pair, an access key, and a secret key. This is the most common and traditional one. Another way is to use RSA asymmetric encryption, which we will talk about today. Then we'll click Next. Here we need to enter a public key. In fact, the public key and private key pair you created need to upload the RSA public key and then return as RSA API key. We haven't created the public key and private key of RSA encryption. Let's create them first. There are many tools to create RSA public key and private key. For example, we can use OpenSSL tool in the terminal. And then enter the command directly to create the public key. And the private key, of course, for ordinary users, it may be a little troublesome. They need to remember many commands. This is not easy to use. Here we use a creation tool recommended by Binance, which is publicly available and easy to use. We click the link below and we jump to the GitHub website. This is a tool disclosed by Binance on GitHub. Among these tools, the Windows version installation package, the Apple system version installation package, and the Linux version installation package have been compiled, including the code of the tool is also open source. If you are interested, you can study the source code. If you use it directly, you can download the corresponding version. Since our current operating system is Apple system, we will download the installation package of Apple system directly. We click this link to download. Wait for a moment. After downloading finished, we can install it directly. Okay, here we can see it was finished. And we double click the installation package here. And we drag it directly into applications. Then we can use it. Okay, wait for a moment. After installation, we can find this tool on the console. We can open it directly and run it. The first time we install it, there is a verification, and then we open it. This tool is very simple to use. Now we need to generate the RSA key. Then we click the button to generate the key. And it generates a private key and a public key here of RSA. Then we save the private key and the public key. We save it on the desktop. Which is easier to find. Now we look at our downloaded files here. There is a public key and a private key. At this time, we can upload the public key. We open it with a TXT editor. Then we select them all and copy it. Then we return to the Binance page. Fill in the public key and then we click Next. At this time, we can give the public key a tag name. We can call it as test RSA. Then we click Next. After the authentication of Binance creation key, Google authentication, and mobile phone number authentication, then we create an RSA API key here, like this. And we need to save this key. We just copy it and save it to our step 2 in our memo. Here we save it in our step 2, RSA API key here. Then we can log into the server. We log into the server where we want to run the Docker and put the private key created just now on the local server. In this way, when the Docker runs the robot transaction program, the transaction program will sign with the local configured private key. That is, the key will only appear locally, not on any other platform or website. So it is safe and there is no risk of key leakage. As long as your server is not hacked, this key will be placed locally and your account will be more secure. Even if you have a private key, there is no RSA API key returned by Binance. It is useless. Now we can log into our server. I created a server in advance and we can log in directly in the terminal. In the terminal, we log in. Enter our login command. We log in with SSH root. And here, we enter the server's IP address. Look at it. Then we need to enter our password here. Here we can see it was successfully created. And then we log into our server. Here we create a directory called robot, which is specially used to store the Docker's directory. Then we go back to FMZ to download the Docker. Here on the Docker page, we click Add Docker, and then since we click to deploy the Docker and download the corresponding version of the Docker. Since the server we use is Linux, we download the corresponding Linux 64-byte here. We click Copy Link Address. Here we use the wget tool to download, and then we passed our Docker address here. We can see that the robot is our Docker program, and then we can run the Docker program. Before running the Docker, we need to configure RSA key first. Let's take a look at the directory structure. For example, when we want to configure key, we can configure it in the robot, which is the same level directory of the Docker. We can put it in the same level directory directly, or the next level directory. When configuring the path, we can set it according to our needs. However, if we put it in the same level directory, we can read the API document here. If we put it in the same level directory, we can fill in the file name only when configuring on FMZ platform. If we put it in the next level directory, for example, I created a folder called RSA key in the same level directory of the robot, and I put key in this folder. Then I need to write the path as a file RSA key text, other paths, and so on. Let's use the simplest one and put it in the same level directory. Then we go back to the server. How do we configure this key? In fact, it's also very simple. First, we open our private key. Namely the RSA private key we created. We use this text to open it. Just now, this is the public key. We can see that the length of the public key and the private key is different. The length of the private key is significantly longer. Here we select all the private keys. We copy them. Then we use the VI editor on the server to create a txt file. Here, don't forget to decompress our Docker. Then we can use the VI editor to edit. In the document, we can see that the configured private key must be in txt format. Here we create a txt file named RSA key text txt. Then we copy our private key. Here, copy all of them. Finally, we save it. And okay, we can see that we have a txt private key file at this time. We can use the VI editor to edit or use other terminals to connect to the server or directly drag the private key in. This is one of the methods, or you can upload the file with other commands. Just put the private key locally in the Docker. After putting the private key in the local place of the Docker, we can go to the last step. The last step is to configure the RSA API key to be used on our FMZ platform. And then we will try to see if we can use the private key. Let's go back to our FMZ platform. Let's run the Docker first. We paste it here. Then we need to enter our platform password here. Then we can see our Docker is running now. Here we can see this shows that the Docker is running. We can see that there is a new Docker in the Docker column corresponding to our account. At this time, we can configure our account for testing. We click Platform, Add Platform. Here we choose Binance. We copy and paste the RSA API key we just generated in the Binance Exchange to access the key location. As for the secret key, it's more important. It's to configure the private key address, whose format is file RSA key text in our document. If the private key file is in the same directory as the Docker robot program, we can write the file name directly. If it is in a folder or directory at another level, we need to configure the path layer by layer. For example, if it is placed in a place called RSA key folder, it needs to be written as follows file. Other paths and so on. Then we will fill in this path in our Docker. And we click Add Platform. Here we need to enter our platform password. Click Authorization here. We can see it was created successfully. Okay, so that the exchange object is added, we can see that during the process of adding, the process of configuring on the FMZ Quant trading platform, we only configure the RSA key of Binance, and the private key and other contents are placed on our local server, not on the platform at all. Then we can carry out our test. Now we can see that I have access to the market of Binance successfully, including my account information, account balance, and so on. That is to say, configuring API key in this way is a very safe method. Well, that's all we have explained in this video. If you have any problems, you can leave a message in the ticket or community forum or group of our FMZ Quant trading platform. We will answer your questions at the first time. Thank you for watching.